Okay, I've hit the record button, so we're gonna go ahead and get started, everyone. Good seeing that we have about 30 people connected today. Hopefully more people will connect, and then we'll post this presentation on our YouTube page after we're done within the next couple of days. So today we have two speakers who are part of this project, Dr. Cindy Haynes from Iowa State University and Dr. Melinda Knuth from North Carolina State University. So they've partnered together and they're going to give us this presentation about physical benefits and then nutrition, everything related to gardening, so that hopefully you can get a bit more information on or more knowledge about the things that are related to the project that we're doing. And then they're going to talk for about 40 minutes, let's say. And after that, we'll have time for questions or comments, and you can just go over your experiences with the project so far. We've got about 2 more months to continue on with this project, growing this plant. So we at this point are curious to know how everyone's doing, especially we harvesting strawberries at this point, and what are you all doing with the fruit that you're hopefully harvesting, or with the marigolds that you're growing. So I'm gonna again let Dr. Haynes and Dr. Knuth get started with their presentation, and I'm gonna mute myself. If you have questions, again, as always, feel free to post them on the chat box, and we'll try to answer them maybe at the end of this presentation, unless we can perhaps Syria, who's a student helping with this project, and I can try to address some of the questions throughout the presentation as well. So thank you, Dr. Haynes, Dr. Knuth, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So again, our presentation today is going to be on the physical health benefits that plants provide to people, and we're talking about nutrition of strawberries. We picked these topics because both of them directly relate to what you guys are doing in the project. All right, go ahead and go forward. So first, when we're talking about spaces and we're talking about physically interacting with our environment, we need to talk about what these areas are. There are the natural environment, which is untouched by humans, and then there is what's known as the built environment. And built environment is anything that's man-made. The majority of environments that we engage with as human beings are built environments in some capacity. And so most of our environment we have curated as human beings. Now, within built environments, we have what are known as green spaces. So these different areas of urban and suburban vegetation that we have maintained. Now, these can be public or private gardens. These can be residential landscapes like at your home or your apartment complex. These can be urban forests, and they also can be municipality landscapes. So what we're talking about here is different areas within our towns, within our cities that are visually and physically meant for us to engage with these plants. They're known as green space. Go ahead. This mostly encompasses outdoors, but we can even bring the green environment indoors. And we do this through an architectural term that's called green buildings. What that means is the natural environment has been intentionally built into and designed into the building. It can be things like green walls, as is both of the pictures. A very extensive version of this is on the left side with that large green wall. It can even be something small like you see on the right-hand side, so a small green wall. These are both examples of that. This also includes water features, natural lighting, and natural materials that are used in the design and implementation of these buildings. All right, so we're going to move on. We want this to be an interactive activity for you guys today. So I'm actually going to steal the screen share, and we are going to go to Mentimeter. And I'm going to pop up our little QR code. Can you guys see it? Great. So if you use your phone, you can go to the QR code. I also will copy our participant link into the chat. I'm going to go back to Zoom quick. One moment. So you can also go to menti.com and then put in that put in that link. All right. And what we want you guys to do is we want you guys to put in what your favorite plant is. Now, this is just a test question, so you guys can get used to what this kind of activity is. Ooh, white oak, tomato, jade, coneflower. I think that means anything native. Magnolia, lilies, roses. So with Mentimeter, this is interactive. The point of the word cloud, which is what you guys are doing, is if people put in multiple, like you see here, tomatoes a little bit bigger, that means multiple people have said tomato. Or native. Oh, see someone else put native and coneflower. So it kind of organizes the words in that way. All right. Oh, and he even got three thumbs up. Excellent, guys. See, look at you. You're pros. All right. So now that you're comfortable with our test question, we're going to move on to the first question that we have with our presentation today. All right. All right. Last response came in, so I'm going to move forward. All right, so if you look at your phone or your computer screen, whatever you're using, you'll see the new question. And so this is one where we want to know, Cindy and I would like to know, what are some physical health benefits that you think that plants provide to yourself and to other human beings? Air quality. Oxygen. Okay. Stress relief, exercise, mental health, better nutrition. Yep. Etherics. Yep. Beauty. Oh, they're moving around. Stress-free activity. Grounding as a hobby, calmness. All right, very good. Yes. So many of these things that you have stated are different benefits that plants can provide to human beings. Some of these are in the mental health space or in the cognitive space, and some of these are also in the environmental space as well. So what plants do for people. So we're going to go back to our presentation and talk about the different physical benefits that plants provide to people. All right, perfect. Yep, slide 5. There we go. Excellent. Yes. All right. So one of the benefits that is commonly known about or a physical benefit that plants provide to people is that it increases physical activity. There's a direct correlation between the amount of green space. And again, green space is these different areas of plant material in our environment. And the correlation between this proximity to green space and physical inactivity in adults. And there's this direct relationship for walking and exercising in general. And for you dog owners out there, there is a strong correlation between physical activity for dog owners and green space. There's also association with vegetated streetscapes, parks, and schoolyards with higher levels of physical activity in children. What this means is that children tend to increase their playtime outdoors when there's more greenery present in that outdoor environment. This is also related to their balance and their coordination development. So instead of it being just a flat blacktop, having different trees and shrubs and having to play tag, weaving through them, builds those different skills that are helpful for children. There's also very interesting research looking at children in environments and learning risk. So risk is best learned in childhood. And so if that's not well learned, then that leads to less adaptiveness as an adult. And there's a really strong association with that development of children with playing outdoors. Lastly, there is also a relationship with participating in an hour or more per day in gardening, exhibiting with better balance and fewer functional limitations, especially in populations that tend to have those issues, which is usually older adults. All right, go ahead. Other common benefits that are that plants provide to people are better sleep. There's an association also with having a shorter amount of sleep syndrome. So for those of you who have more night interruptions and as well as having a hard time falling asleep, these are different sleep syndromes that we're talking about here. There is a relationship between having a greener environment outdoors around where you are and having less of this occurring in your life. What's also interesting is that there's a correlation between that reduced stress level and green space. And a lot of scientists think that this is the actual mechanism that causes this less sleep syndrome for individuals. What this means is if you have less stress, you're expressing less cortisol, which means better relaxation, especially at night, which will lead to better sleep for you. So this is how this mind-body engagement works with that green environment. Another benefit plants can provide physically is enhancing immunity. So there is a hypothesis known as the hygiene hypothesis. And this is when if you keep too clean of an environment, it actually leads to greater health issues for yourself. Meaning if you scrub all of your surfaces all the time and sterilize them, this can actually reduce your ability when you come into contact with bad bacteria and viruses of you being able to fight them off. And so we know that in green environments that there is a greater biodiversity of these bacteria, especially. And so this actually leads to a greater enhancement of immunity for people. This also improves the natural killer cell activity within humans. And what your natural killer cells do is they fight cancer and they fight different diseases that your body comes into contact with. And then because there's a greater biodiversity of bacteria that are in these environments, it also helps with our microbiome within our body. So that good bacteria that a lot of people are talking about right now, especially online, it also improves with that immunity as well. Related to immunity, but not directly about immunity, is decreasing allergies. So there's an interesting study that was done looking at that children in rural environments, and rural environments tend to have much more greenery than urban. Children in rural environments have less allergies and are less likely to have symptoms of allergies than children in urban environments. And it's believed to be because of partially this hygiene hypothesis, but then also that rural children are coming into more contact with a more diverse plant and microbiota environment. So they're being introduced to a wider variety of pollens, a wider variety of bacteria. And because of this, their body knows, oh, this thing isn't going to hurt me. This allergen isn't, this pollen, this is okay. Versus in environments where there's not very much of that, when your body's introduced to it, then it becomes more of an issue. All right, go ahead and click next. Some less commonly known benefits are that there's a relationship between lower cardiovascular disease risk and blood pressure with green space. So one of the things that happens is that there's a relationship between oh man, see this word every time, Cindy, we practice this too. Adaptogen, I think I said it as accurately as I'm going to get it today. I apologize, everyone. This is a protein within your body that is a cardioprotector. And so it helps with your cardiovascular system, aka your heart. So we know that increasing more walking and engaging in more light physical activity is related to the increase of this protein within our body. There's also a correlation between walking in nature and reduced blood pressure in older adults, especially. Partially, this could be attributed to the effect that being in these environments does reduce your stress. So you're getting that reduction from your stress, which will reduce your blood pressure. You know, it can go the opposite way as well. But then also because of these other factors that are reducing the cardiovascular risk. There's also a decreased all-cause mortality, and all-cause mortality is anything that could cause death for a human being. So higher densities of these green spaces results in higher perceptions of health. So people perceive themselves to be healthier. And there is a relationship between perceiving yourself to be healthier and actually being healthier. Because if you believe you're going to get better, if you believe that you're going to if you're going to beat this cancer, you actually have a higher likelihood of doing so. Secondly, there's less conditions in vulnerable populations from the medical perspective. And these are people who experience diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, and stroke. These conditions are less found when there's higher areas of green space, meaning overall health is just better. Go ahead. All right, and then we get to the emerald ash borer, which is, if you weren't aware of this little friend, I'm gonna say friend, you're about to not like this little insect at all from the beginning. So, okay. Emerald ash borer was introduced into the United States roughly 10 years ago. It is not a native insect, but you know what it likes to munch on? Trees, especially, as you can see, emerald ash borer, ash trees. It loves ash trees. So this little guy goes around and it'll burrow into ash trees, and it will eventually cause the decline and death of trees. And for many Americans, especially in the Northeast, we love ash trees. Ash trees are beautiful. They have a wide variety of different colors in their leaves. And we plant, or I should say past tense now, we planted a lot of them. Unfortunately, when this insect was introduced to the US, it decimated a lot of our shade tree populations, and as it worked its way across the US. Well, this is of interest, especially to the physical benefits of plants, because there's less trees, there's less green space. Guess what happened? There was an overall increase in mortality in areas that lost large amounts of ash trees. And it's because people were less likely to go into these green spaces because there was not trees, there was not shade, they didn't want to go. So there's an indirect relationship with the emerald ash borer and our physical health as a community. And I found this was super wild. I never realized that this was an effect until reading about it and learning about how we know directly how it affects trees, but that does eventually also affect our communities and our overall healthiness as well. All right, go ahead and go forward. All right, other less commonly known benefits is in obesity reduction. So the more physically active you are, the more likely that you're going to have a more, we'll call it standard BMI. Not always the case, but in general. So there's a correlation with obesity reduction and these green spaces because people are being more active in them. And what's interesting is people who lived near green spaces, so specifically within a mile of a green space, were 40% less likely to be overweight because they're engaging in more physical activity. Also, there was a 39% reduction in the amount of screen time, as in sedentary behavior. We're just laying, doing our Netflix, time, there was less of that happening, and a 24% lower incidence of this sedentary behavior when you were even within, in this case, this was done by Europeans, but 300 meters of green space. So the closer you are to green space, the less likely you are to have sedentary behaviors. There's also a relationship between birth weight and green spaces. And this is of interest to note because this is an indirect relationship. So when we're in green spaces, or I should say, when a pregnant woman is within a green space, it's being in the green space doesn't do anything directly for the baby who is being developed. Instead, it is affecting the mother or the woman who is carrying the baby. So she's more physically active and engaging more outside. And this leads to a better influence on the infant's outcome when they are born. So there's heavy influences on psychosocial and physiological factors of pregnancy being in these green spaces. Reduce stress, better sleep, which is very important. My sister is currently pregnant, so I know a lot about all of that, as well as getting this physical activity. So how this relates to birth weight. Being in proximity to green space reduces the risk of small for size infants that are born. So small for gestational size, they're smaller than average. And there's a strong correlation for parents who have low education level and low socioeconomic status. So for these people, having greater proximity to green space significantly improves the birth weight of children who are born to those families. So it's very impactful for low income and low socioeconomic individuals in our communities. All right, go ahead. And something that a physical benefit that we get is we get a positive response with our parasympathetic nervous system. So our sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight, and this is usually expressed through stress and anxiety. So think of this like your fight or flight. So that is your sympathetic. That is the one that's saying, yep, okay, this is what we're doing. Your parasympathetic is, we are okay. Everything is good. Let's rest and digest. And what that means is if you've ever been highly anxious or stressed, you might notice that you aren't hungry or that you aren't, or that you get a stomach ache. And it's because your body literally shuts off its ability to digest when you are in fight or flight or when you are stressed. So how does this relate to plants? Because I just explained this whole mechanism. This relates to plants because being in green spaces, doing physical activity, having this reduced stress response engages our parasympathetic nervous system. This allows our body to have that rest and digestibility that we don't get in other types of environments. So being in this helps us so that we can engage more into that side that a lot of Americans struggle with. We're stressed out a lot. All right, go ahead and click next. All right, so there is different physical benefits that plants can provide. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cynthia, and we're going to continue with Mentimeter. I'm going to get that popped up.
Excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen again. So we talk a little bit about Mentimeter, but we are shifting gears just a little bit. Melinda talked a lot about the benefits of plants and nature, and I'm going to focus more on the benefits of strawberries. So we're going to focus in or hone in on some nutrition. So what do you think are some of the health benefits of eating strawberries? And hopefully you're eating a few. There we go. Some of them are popping up. Antioxidants. I'm so glad you mentioned that. We'll mention that again. Vitamins and minerals. Red is good. Oh, it's fun. Brings joy. Ooh, I like the fiber, thank you. Ooh, lycopene, good job. I've got some things in the chat, including vitamins and the book called Last Child in the Woods. I think Melinda knows that one as well as I do. So just a couple more, 30 more seconds. And do we have one more question before I move on, or do we go back to the PowerPoint?
I think we go back to the PowerPoint after this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Excellent. So I'll start sharing my screen again. Okay. Change the display settings. So can everyone see that?
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the health benefits of strawberries and eating strawberries. And you were right. Strawberries are incredibly beneficial. All fruits and vegetables are pretty good. But strawberries have some special characteristics. Like many fruits and vegetables, they're sodium and cholesterol free. This one is a low calorie fruit that is high in things like antioxidants, other phytochemicals, vitamin C, magnesium, manganese, and potassium. So just a few of the things that are out there. If we were going to look at kind of a logo on nutritional facts on strawberries, you would note that 100 grams of strawberries probably contain less than 40 or 50 calories. They're 90% water. There's a little bit of protein there, which is not bad for something that's 90% water. There's a lot of fiber, and there's some carbohydrates, and most of the carbohydrates come in the form of sugar. Strawberries are loaded with vitamin C. Vitamin C is just one of the few minerals and vitamins that are in strawberries, but vitamin C does a lot of things. 1 cup of strawberries will give you 136% of your recommended daily allowance of vitamin C. So that's pretty nice. Vitamin C not only helps treat cuts and wounds, but it also is great at lowering blood pressure, and it helps ward off age-related ocular diseases like cataracts and macular degeneration. So think about that as well. Strawberries are also pretty high in potassium. They're also high in folate, so they also help pregnant women. One of the other nutrient that they're really high in is manganese. And manganese is a little bit unusual to have a high concentration of this micronutrient, but it's a really good antioxidant as well as an anti-inflammatory in the system. And potassium with vitamin K, magnesium, and manganese, it really helps with bone health. About a large percentage, 25% of a strawberry contains what you need for fiber. It has a lot of soluble and insoluble fiber, so this is very good. It also has a lot of carbohydrate. And some people get a little worried when we say carbohydrates, but these are usually pretty good ones. Most of the carbohydrate in strawberries is coming from simple sugars. So they're a nice energy source, a kind of a quick energy source, but they're not high in the glycemic index. So those that are diabetic won't see those big shifts in sugars or needs for insulin. So they don't see those spikes or those needed spikes. So it's a nice way to kind of get some carbohydrate, good carbohydrate, and a lot of that is actually coming as fiber as well. There's also some other chemicals in strawberries that we're going to call phytochemicals. These are polyphenols. These are antioxidants. Sometimes they're very related to the pigment of the strawberry. That's an anthocyanin. And a lot of berries have these pigments, and they're really dark colors. They're very rich. And we know that they're great in vitamin C and as kind of antioxidants. But what we're also finding is that some of these darker pigments like anthocyanins or lycopene is really good at lowering the risk of heart disease, Alzheimer's, as well as diabetes. Some of this also helps reduce, antioxidants also help reduce free radicals in the system. So that's also a really important thing to remember, because there's a lot of things that are classified as antioxidants, and strawberries are loaded. And then finally, one of the things that I find really interesting about strawberries is the link sometimes to not only cardio health, but cognitive health as we age. And this was from a study that was conducted or published last year that looked at a small group of healthy aging population. I think they were like 65 to 78, and consuming 2 daily servings of strawberries a day for about 6 to 8 weeks reduced their processing or increased their processing speed by 5% and improved cognitive function, and it reduced their systolic blood pressure by 10%. And that's considered the only thing they really changed was, 2 servings of strawberries a day. There are some other compounds in strawberries, and this is the one, Melinda, I'm not even going to try and say, that I think it's
Pelargonidin. There we go. I got that one.
All right. Pelargonidin, which is another one that is very much found in strawberries and has been shown to reduce the risk of Alzheimer's, particularly Alzheimer's dementia. So kind of cool to look and investigate some of these studies. This was a small study, which is not uncommon when we're talking about health studies with certain things. And they used freeze-dried strawberry powder, which is also concentrated strawberries. But we would expect the same benefits even on fresh strawberries that you are harvesting in your garden. I think that's enough. I think we've talked for about 35 minutes, and that kind of gets us going. So what we'd like to do next is also see what you know and maybe what you learned today from our session. So I'm going to stop sharing while we reopen the Mentimeter. This is also a good time for you guys to ask some questions in the chat.
All right, I'm going to wait for you all. We have one question, and the system, the Mentimeter system says, oh, this is a timed question. But there's nothing, you're not going to win or lose anything. This is not a life or death situation. This is just for fun. So we're going to, I'm going to wait until more of you join, and then we're going to ask you a question.
And maybe you can put the link on the, I'm not sure if we have it, but we can put it on the chat box.
You can use the same link I shared before, and let me see. Here you go. I'll also put up the QR code again.
And the link is in the chat as well.
Yes. The code again. So here you go. I'll copy it. There you go. Same one. You can also follow the instructions at the top of the screen, so you can join at menti.com and use this 8-digit code.
So 30 more seconds.
Yeah, I feel like we should do Jeopardy.
We need music in the background.
Yes.
And some of you are typing some questions in the chat. Keep doing that. We'll get to those just as soon as we finish up with a few intermediate questions for you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to click enter. Here we go. So all answers are correct here. But what is your likelihood of eating fresh strawberries daily? Not likely, unlikely, likely, or highly likely.
Hmm.
All right, once everyone answers, it'll show everyone's response, or when the time runs out, either way, that's what will happen. So we'll wait for one of two things to happen.
There's a question, Melinda, that is asking if your question also includes store-bought or I assume only the ones that they're growing at home.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that question. It includes all. All right, so let's see. I would say it's kind of split almost half and half. I would say,
Honest answers are good.
yeah, honest answers are great. Awesome. All right, we're gonna move on to the next question. Whoop, what are some benefits of adding high antioxidant foods into your diet? So you can select any, all, or none of the responses. And then this one's in real time, so we'll get to see how you guys vote. All right, we have about 27 people who are participating, so I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds here so you guys can submit your stuff.
The nice thing is there's usually no wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer here. All right, so what are some of the benefits? So for these, all of these are true. So it reduces the anti-inflammatory issues within individuals, it improves cardiovascular health, reduces free radicals in the bloodstream, and reduces diseases such as cancer. All right, now we will continue. So this is a short answer, and I believe that we have it set up so you can put up to 3. So we want to know in just a couple of words. You don't have to write a textbook to us or anything, but how do your food choices affect your health? We want to know what you think. You are what you eat. Food is fuel. Yes. Nutrition, weight, heart health, better nutrition. I feel better. It's everything. It very much affects your health. Healing from disease, maintenance of health, provide nutrition for body to function, reduce disease, feel better when you eat more fruits and vegetables, affects your weight, mood, and body composition. Right, I wonder, it looks like someone's is down here. I wonder if I can pop that up. Oh, there we go. I can scroll. I've never had this many people respond, which is so good. This is great, guys. So I've never had to scroll before. Health, energy levels, guilt or no guilt, keeps my inflammation down, keeps my gut in a good place, overall feel better. I feel better when I eat more plants, especially home cooked prepared, avoid allergens, provide energy nutrition, guilt, no guilt, healthy choices are better options for good health. It affects your overall health and body image. So awesome. Thank you all. Feel better when I eat fresh food. Yeah. Okay. And then our, oh no, it's showing our different options there. Sorry, Cindy. But select which options you would buy in a grocery store.
Most of the pictures are showing up.
Oh, good.
They are on my phone.
Okay, awesome. Okay, how about now? Did it fix? Oh, good. Okay. So with these options we are showing you, these are all different strawberry flavored or strawberries themselves, options that you would see at a grocery store. All right.
I agree with Selena. Freeze-dried strawberries. They
Yeah.
are great.
In Berkeley's, I found that making strawberry fruit roll-ups in the dehydrator makes for delicious fruit roll-ups. Ooh, that sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
So of these different options, what I was showing at the beginning was that some of these, even though they're strawberry flavored, might not be the best options in selection. But there are many options out there, such as the fresh strawberries, the freeze-dried, or even the frozen strawberries that all have a similar amount of nutrition. That would be excellent options if you're looking for that strawberry flavor.
And strawberries are strawberries. So some people have asked if organic strawberries or homegrown strawberries or frozen strawberries are better. They're all good. Obviously, those strawberries that don't have any pesticides probably would have less pesticides, but they're all good. So even those frozen strawberries, when you can't grow strawberries, it's a good thing to have, because you're still getting all of those antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and benefits.
And that's all we had for you. So thank you all for participating in our Mentimeter activities and for listening to our different facts about nutrition and physical benefits. I did see Cindy McDonald had a question about where are the resources that I was talking about. So what I can do is share in the Facebook group or email out to the individuals. There is a series of articles that myself and my colleague, Dr. Charlie Hall, wrote on the different categories of benefits that plants provide to people, from mental health to physical health to social, all across the board. And I am definitely would love if you would read them, especially if you're interested in these different areas.
There are also some questions on the freeze-dried strawberries and making me hungry thinking about it with granola and trail mix and nuts. So
Yeah, so if feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. Maybe we can start with questions specific to today's presentation. And if you don't have any, then we can move along and just see if you have questions about the status of your plans or what's going on with the project. You can type your questions or just unmute yourself.
Question. Can you still get the last chat set, or the last one we had? I missed. Is it still out there on video on YouTube?
The previous presentation, you mean, Perry? I can't hear you. We can't hear you anymore. I think you muted yourself accidentally.
the last presentation, the one we
Yeah.
just had in July. I
Yeah,
didn't get it.
so we can maybe when we send the link for this presentation, we'll just insert a link for the others, but it's already been posted on the YouTube page. So what we will do is again just share a link for the last 3 presentations within the next few days so that you can see
Okay,
it.
what is the YouTube page?
It's just a page that my former student Michael had, so we have to track Michael down and ask him to give the link to us. But
Okay, if you send it to me, then thank you.
yeah, we'll do. We'll send it to everyone.
Okay,
And
thank
then Cindy, because I'm not sure if everyone knows this, but there's a very, very, very small group of participants in the study who were also trying to assess if there are going to be any changes in some metabolic markers. So they volunteered to have their blood be drawn. So we do have those results. I believe we will share them with each individual if you want them. So Cindy, if you shoot me an email, I should be able to get you what we have for you at this point. And then the idea for everyone is that we will do this. We did this before and we'll do this after the project's ended. And then I think we'll do it a 3rd time later next year to see if there are any differences as a result of your involvement in this fun project. Any other questions?
Berkeley had a question, and you opened up a little bit of can of worms here, Berkeley. So I'm going to answer it in a short statement, if I may. No, don't worry. It's okay. This is just one of the topics where I could talk for like 3 or 4 hours about this. So that's why I was like, oh, so how do you separate the socioeconomic factors from the health risk factors of these kinds of studies? So for example, how to assess green space, etc. And so what it comes down to is many studies in as controlled environment as we can possibly get, and using a lot of very fancy statistics so that we can control for as many factors as possible. Because when you have a lot of variability, such as outside, and you can't control who's walking by while you're assessing people doing outdoor activity. Also, people are not good at assessing how much of an activity you do or don't do. So the best that we can do is use, like, for example, Fitbit watches and such. Those are great tools for us to accurately assess those types of activities. We also use, for example, GIS and GPS pictures of green spaces are a great way for us to accurately measure how much green space is available to people in these different areas. And then the socioeconomic factors are huge contributors to not only our health, but also our outcome. So in short, by controlling as many factors as we can and looking into specific different populations, that's how we can discover these little niche aspects. So when I was talking about birth weight for low income families, there's a specific study on that, looking at that particular topic. So that's how we're able to fine tune and learn about these results when in a very messy, very hard to gauge world. So that's my short version. So, and that was pretty long, but there's a lot of detail to that.
This is why a lot of these studies are small, because there's so many things they're trying to control. And that one cognitive health one was like 35, 40 people that were between the ages of 66 and 78. So it was very, very targeted. So, and they're looking for some fairly small differences. And then that leads to a larger study then after the methods have been tested. So I'm going to answer another or make another comment. There's a switch gears just a little bit. There's some people that are talking about marigolds, and we didn't talk about marigolds today, but they do help reduce stress just by being the pretty little selves that they are. And Cinda says that her marigolds have bloomed like crazy and gotten top heavy, that they've required staking. So that's great. They're growing really well. keep deadheading them, because the top heaviness comes sometimes from the flower. It's really a pretty big, hefty flower for such a small, thin stem. So continue to enjoy that. And Cindy says she's got some deadheading to do of marigolds as well. I think that's great for data collection too, because it kind of helps you keep track of how many blooms you've had. So
And I'm sorry, Cindy. I just have a question for everyone, because I just saw someone made a comment that the Elon strawberries have just begun to fruit, and I keep seeing comments about it. So, has anyone been successful with this one cultivar? Because it is an award-winning cultivar. That's why we selected it. It's supposed to be a really good garden plant. So I'm wondering if anyone's been able to get a good number of fruits from them. Or what sort of struggles have you had? So if you remove the runners, though, Cindy's saying that it has a lot of runners. So if you're growing it for fruit, one strategy to minimize having the plant allocate energy to those growers is just getting rid of them, the runners, and then maybe that maybe help. What about the other strawberry that you're all growing? I've seen very pretty pictures and I've seen some fruit.
Those are very healthy ants.
Oh, and a reminder also, Syria sent an email earlier this week, I believe, and made a reminder that now's the time to apply that second dose of fertilizer to your plants. If you haven't already done so, please, that should help perhaps with some, now that we're entering that fruiting stage, that might help your plants. Yeah, and just so that everyone understands, in previous years, we've grown tomatoes for this project. This year, one of the reasons why we wanted to grow strawberries was because we know it's a bit more challenging in terms of managing potential pests or critters or things that might affect the yield that participants or potential consumers have. So that's one of the reasons we want to understand how people succeed essentially at being able to get a harvest from these fruits that are also attractive to other animals and pests.
So think about too, some little fencing, if you, something kind of, you know, if possible. I've even used tools sometimes before, so it doesn't have to be chicken wire. And sometimes you just have to exclude a critter for a little while and then they move on to something else. That's not going to work with the ants though, sorry. A net, that's good.
I'm stabbing the rabbits. Just
Yeah.
like the Olympians did.
Yes, chicken wire fencing works well if you have it, or anything that's just small enough to keep a critter from going through.
Any other comments or questions, especially for our speakers? We have just a few more minutes left before our hour is over. And remember, we have one more webinar or one more session next month that will be led by our colleagues here at Purdue University, and it will be focused on, I think, stress, potential ways for us to manage stress.
We're all about your physical and mental health.
And nutritional health,
Yes.
all about your health. Well, thank you, Melinda and Cindy, for this great presentation. And thanks everyone. As always, if you have questions, feel free to shoot us an email or post comments on the Facebook page, which we keep monitoring. I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all.